had dipped sometime before sunrise. Although still half asleep, my body was protesting the loss of his heat. When I didn't hear him leave the room, I cracked my eyes just a little to see what he was doing, and I was surprised to see him go down on his knees facing the east window. Oh, y'all, something settled inside of me watching that powerful man submit himself to the Most High. If I was a painter, I would stop at nothing to capture this image. And if I was a writer, I would use the most phenomenal words in the English language to describe this feeling, so that all who read my work would know and understand the significance of this moment. He was such an extraordinary man in every way, and I don't know what I had done to deserve him. I grinned thinking about last night. Just like the first time we made love, I had to beg him to let me rest. And I don't know if it was normal, but he had a way of loving me completely, leaving my body feeling utterly depleted. The man seemed to have an insatiable appetite. Before my heart could regulate from my previous joining, he would be kissing me and whispering those dirty suggestions in my ear. I would tell him I couldn't and that I was tired, but I might as well have been preaching the importance of patience to Eve, because it went in one ear and out the other. It was like my objections were a personal challenge for him, and he took immense pleasure in proving me wrong. Moments later, he would have made me forget all about my reservations and anything else. Later, after he had finally tired himself out, he apologized, confirming my beliefs. He had not been with another woman since he and I had conceived Eve. I watched him silently pray until my eyes grew heavy. When next I opened them, he was leaving out the room dressed for his morning run. Where he got the energy, I would never know. I didn't plan on getting out this bed till noon. After what the man had done to me last night, my body needed to recuperate. His morning runs spoke volumes about him. This neighborhood was dangerous. I wouldn't walk my pet gorilla around it. And yet, he had no fear. He ran every morning except on the Sabbath. I must have fallen asleep again, because when next I woke, he was kissing me, telling me he was leaving for work. Right then, Eve burst in the room in true Eve fashion and charged us both. She jumped into his arms and he pretended to fly back in the bed. "Ah!" he yelled, pretending to be injured, causing Eve to squeal in laughter at the top of her lungs. Oh well, there goes my plan to sleep to noon. I sat up in the covers and I gave them both a stern look. It is too early in the morning to be making all that noise, I hissed in my angry teacher tone. Both Caleb and Eve looked up at me from where they had just been tussling in the bed. Both blinked, looking so much alike. I nodded my head at them as if to say, "Damn right, they better keep it down." Moments later, it was me squealing, because before I could lie back down and pull the covers over my head, Caleb had come around the bed and picked me up, covers and all, and tossed me up in the air to bounce on the bed before he grabbed me and did it again. "Caleb!" I screeched, trying to fight my way out of the covers. But by the time he stopped and I was able to unwind myself from all the layers, the coward was gone. I looked down at Eve, who stood at the side of the bed, all eyes and smiles. "That's not funny." She erupted in a slew of baby talk and laughter. I scooped her up and tossed her slightly in the air so that she could bounce on the bed like I had. "Now, how did you like that?" She was laughing so hard she couldn't speak. She just held up her arms for me to do it again. Crazy gal. Eventually, we made our way out of Caleb's room after straightening up a bit and got dressed for the day. I made Eve and Nana's breakfast, then I left out to run a few errands. My first stop was the coffee house, and then Mika's. She cracked the door open, peeping around the side. much like she had done yesterday. I held up the 2 mocha lattes with extra whipped cream and chocolate sauce that I bought, smiling brightly. I've got lattes. That's heavy on the fat. She stared at me for a moment, and I could see she wanted to send me away. But then her eyes fell on the lattes, and as if on cue, a glob of chocolate and whipped cream dripped down into the cup holder. Wow, yeah, that does look good. She finally grumbled, opening the door for me to come in. Like yesterday, the house was completely dark. I put the drinks on the table and I went to the curtains and opened them just a bit, like I had seen Caleb done. Mika grabbed one of the lattes and then settled back on the couch. She still had on the clothes she had worn yesterday, and her hair was all over her head as if she had just gotten up. "Oh, I'm sorry, did I wake you?" I asked, grabbing my latte, sitting on the couch with her. She chuckled without any humor. "Nah, girl, I've been up since 5. She spoke like somebody who really didn't want to speak at all, but was doing it because they were being pressured to. "Oh, okay." I didn't know what else to say at that point. I'd admit to not thinking this plan all the way through. I bought the lattes because these fattening drinks always made me feel better when I was depressed. But I hadn't thought about what to do after that. Like, what should I say to her? I mean, what can you say to a mother that has lost her husband and children? I had no idea. So we just sat in silence and drank our lattes. And I know she enjoyed it because when she got down to the bottom where all the whipped cream and all the chocolate was, she popped that little plastic lid off, ignored the straw completely, and turned the cup up and drained off all those settled goodies. "Thanks for the coffee, Mon. It was real good," she mumbled when she was finished. I smiled, pleased she enjoyed it. When the silence got too thick and uncomfortable, I panicked and blurted out the first thing that came to my mind. "I've got to wear a chicken outfit today." Dear y'all, I can't believe I just said that. Great job, Monica. A chicken outfit? Really? Surprisingly, she turned to look at me with a grin on her face. "What? Why?" I exhaled, so relieved she didn't kick me out of her house for being a verbal klutz that I had to send up a silent prayer of thanks. "Girl, I lost the bet to Caleb." This seemed to get her attention because she actually turned a bit to face me on the couch. "What was the bet?" She settled in and I told her all about it. She laughed so hard that I went on to tell her about the rest of me and Caleb's adventures. By the time I was finished, she was wiping tears from her eyes for laughing so hard. "You went to his apartment building and told them folks he had Ebola? Girl, you is crazy." You know what? That's what Caleb would get. When me and Ro first got married, Caleb acted out, girl. He acted so bad. He accused me of taking his boy away and all kinds of madness. Ro said Caleb had the nerve to tell him he had a getaway car ready if he changed his mind. She looked at me before smacking the couch. "Girl, he told him this at our wedding." We both erupted in laughter. "Wow, wait till I talk to him. During our wedding, I wish he did offer me a getaway car. I sure would have taken it." My statement caused her to erupt with more laughter. "And I don't feel sorry for him," she said when her laughter died down. "I pray you give him the works, 'cause he deserved it." Well, I tell you what, I can promise you one thing. That brother ain't gonna be able to say his life boring with me in it. She and I chatted and laughed a bit more before I told her I had to go. We hugged and she thanked me for coming by, saying that we had to do this again. I smiled to myself. She just didn't know how often we were going to be doing this. Poor Mika probably thought that I was the type of person to sit here and let her melt away in this dark house while the world rotated around us. Bless her heart. You see, I learned something about her today. She needed folks to stop tiptoeing around her. Had I been a weak person, I would have taken her go-away look she wore and ran when she first opened that door. But I am not weak, and I dug in, and I forced her to let me in. And by the time I left, she had turned on the living room light, her kitchen light, and her bedroom light, where she took me in there and showed me the wedding gift Caleb had gotten her in Rome. She had been so animated and had laughed until tears came from her eyes. Yeah, she would be seeing a lot more of me, all right. Because I was not the kind of person that gave up. And I wasn't giving up on Mika, and I wouldn't let Mika give up on life. When I walked into the center, I came up short at the sight of Stormy. She sat by one of the windows, looking out at the world with a look almost as bleak as Mika's. There were only a couple of kids here this early. The only classes today were Madam Queen's drama classes, but that didn't start till later. So the few kids that were here were probably here for a meal. "Hey, big sister," I called to her as I approached. She turned and smiled up at me, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Hey, sweetheart." She turned and looked back out the window. I sat on the bench next to her. "What's the matter?" She inhaled while shaking her head slightly. Shlomo and I lost two people that are really close to us yesterday. I put my hand on my chest. "Dear Yah, how did they die?" Her startled gaze flew to me. "They didn't die." I blinked at her confused as I went back over her words in my head. I mean, she did just tell me Shlomo and her lost two people that were close to them. I'm confused. If they didn't die, how did you lose them?" She chuckled dryly. "That's just it. We lost them. They're gone, and nobody knows where." I frowned. "Were they kidnapped?" She shook her head. "Did they run away?" Again, she shook her head. "Okay, now I'm good and confused." "Well, that's 'cause I can't explain what even I don't understand," she said. I nodded. "Fair enough. Are you going to be all right, though?" She exhaled, looking back out the window. "Yeah, I'm going to be fine, but it's those parents that I hurt for. You know, they're going through a lot right now." I stood and I hugged her. "Well, we'll keep them in our prayers." She looked up at me surprised. I smiled down at her. That's right, I said it. Your little sister is praying now." She smiled then, and this time it did reach her eyes. "Oh, man, hallelujah. Now, you have no idea how glad I am to hear that." "You were right," I told her. "Some things one just have to learn for themselves." I picked up her hand and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "I'll tell you all about it a little later. I need to find Madam Queen." Her gaze sobered, and she held onto my hand, stopping me from leaving. "Why, has she started harassing Caleb for money?" I chuckled, shaking my head. "No, not yet, but I'm sure she's already working on her game pitch." "Is something wrong with her, Mom? She is driving me nuts. Today, she claimed she had to have sand flown in from Egypt for one of her sketches, and no other sand will do." The desperate look on her face caused me to erupt in laughter. "Oh, poor Storm. Girl, I don't envy you your position." I kissed her on her cheek and headed on down the hall toward the madam's wing. I found her sitting at her makeup table applying mascara. "Hey, sweet tart," she giggled as I approached. I giggled for her nickname she had given me, naming me after one of my favorite candies. "Hey, madam. And why have you come to visit me so early in the day?" I sat on one of the desks that were not covered in costumes and props. "Well, I need a favor." I figured as much. She began to brush rouge on her cheeks. "And are you going to tell me what you want, or am I going to have to guess all day?" I chuckled. "I need you to make me look like a chicken." The brush stilled on her cheek. "Oh, sweet tart, that mind of yours." She put down her brush and turned on her little stool to face me. Now, when you say chicken, do you mean sniveling coward or poultry? Poultry. First, tell me why, she pleaded. And don't leave anything out. You know I live vicariously through you. I laughed, and for the second time that day told how I lost the bet. When I was done, Madam jumped up as if motivated. I have the perfect costume. An hour and a half later, I stood in front of the mirror. Madam, I said a chicken. I look like I'm on my way down the Victoria's Secret runway when they premiered the Angel line. You see, I was leery when she handed me the sequins halter bra top and told me to put it on. But then she wrapped a piece of yellow cloth around my waist and hips, something like a tight miniskirt, but not quite. I thought to myself, this is going downhill fast. And as if to prove my point, she put another sheer piece of cloth over the yellow tight skirt and began to build me a tail of yellow feathers. I waited for her to add more clothing, but she never did. It took her 30 minutes to design this headpiece that was typical Madam Queen, over-the-top extravagant. And I guess because there were red feathers involved, we could say it was a chicken cone. Maybe. Possibly. It had started off a simple red headband. Now it sat about 2 feet high on my head. A crown of red feathers, gold wires, and rhinestones. Maybe when I was done with it, I can give it to Angie. She could probably use it as part of her costume for Carnival. When Madam was satisfied with her costume, she pulled up a stool and began to apply my makeup. The end result was something that was way too glamorous for what I needed it for. Madam, I can't stand outside of Caleb's shop dressed like this. I'll cause a traffic pileup and be arrested for disturbing the peace. She stood back admiring her work with a huge grin on her face. That's the point, sweetheart. You don't really want to stand out in the heat holding a stupid sign, do you? She waved away that idea. Keep this shawl on till you get him alone. She wrapped a long shawl around my shoulders, leaving my feathered tail sticking out. Once you get him alone, slowly unwrap yourself and tell him you came to fulfill your end of the bargain. Now, if he's the man I believe he is, you'll never make it out that door. Oh, yeah. The grin that spread across my face was one of awe and amazement. Madam was brilliant. Yes, Madam. We can call it Operation Sexy Chicken. I was super excited now. I couldn't wait to see his face. But it was only one problem. Madam, how am I supposed to drive with this thing on my head? She playfully smacked my hand. Silly girl, just slide it off like this. She slid the headband off and handed me the elaborate headpiece. Wow, that is easy, I told her. Okay, thank you so much. I'll tell you how it goes. I turned to hurry out the room, but she stopped me. Wait, sweetheart. Don't forget your sign. She held up the big piece of cardboard and it read, "Stop by King and Sons Restorations and see what makes the chickens cluck." Oh my goodness. I shook my head as I walked back to get the sign. Madam Queen was a mad scientist. There was no doubt about it. But what made this so frightening was how willingly of a test subject I always seemed to be. We got a problem, Kay. I looked up from my computer as Teeny came through my office door. I could tell by the look on his face, I was not going to like what he had to tell me. Rashid, I asked, already knowing the topic. Teeny nodded as he took a seat in one of the chairs in front of my desk. That feeling I get when my world is about to shift settled over me. I sat back in my seat. How bad is it? I asked. Teeny shook his head. Boss, man, look, I swear I hate bringing you this kind of news. I mean, you doing good and making yourself better. Hell, you even been motivating me to make a change in some things in my life. I grinned at the big man. Damn, Teeny, you must got real bad news. Cause you in this piece talking like Dr. Phil. Come on, brother. Tell me what I need to know about Rashid. He looked down at his hands for a second before taking a deep breath. What? He went on and made the deal with the Cubans, huh? How far is he in Dominique's pocket? I asked to get the big man talking. The fact that Teeny was hesitating like this was not a good sign. He in Dominique's pocket real good. Somehow he convinced him you was still on board. I nodded. I figured he was gonna go and do something dumb like that. Why didn't Dominique call me? Teeny shrugged. I don't know, but things done got ugly. How so? Well, I guess Rashid got in his mind that the only way he gonna take the power from you was to expand his area of operation. All week, he and his crew been riding down on niggas, putting pistols to their head, telling them they had to shop with him or don't shop at all. And in order to keep up with supply and demand, he had to grab more than his initial 10 from the Cubans. How much? My question was quiet. I knew he was getting ready to tip me over. Rashid was barely paying for the 10 keys of dope he got from Dominique. Twice I had to pay for the nigga. 50 keys. Son of a... I stood from my chair and I began to pace as I tried to wrap my mind around what this meant, while trying to control my rising temper. That stupid mother... Oh! I slammed my fist down on my desk, needing to destroy something. There was no way he was going to be able to cover such an amount. There was no way. Even if he took over every set from here to Oak Park, he still couldn't get off that much dope in time enough to pay Dominique when he was ready. This meant... Oh, I felt myself slipping back into my old man. This wasn't good. Kay, that ain't the worst of it, Teeny continued in a hesitant voice. His boy Marcus got popped yesterday in a moving truck. And guess what them boys found in the back of that truck? I inhaled. The Cuban's dope, I muttered through clenched teeth. Teeny nodded. And your little brother running around desperate, trying to find a way to get that money before word get back to Dominique about that bus. I looked away from Teeny as I fought to stay cool. But I felt like finding my brother and putting him out his misery. How many times have I told his stupid ass to stop transporting dope in moving trucks? That's the #1 vehicles cops look for. See, this one of the main problems with these young dope boys. They felt like they were the smarter cats on the block. And they didn't have to listen to the OGs because somehow the OGs made it to where they are by being stupid. You know he gonna try everything he can. But when none of that stuff works, he gonna come to you to clean this up for him, Teeny continued. What, you want me to go ahead and contact Dominique? I shook my head. Hell no. I told him I'm done coming to his rescue. This one he gonna have to figure out on his own. He nodded. Should I put extra boys on watch just in case them Cubans try to run up on us? Teeny's statement was harmless, but it was enough to tip me over as a feeling that all the leeway I had made in this truth and my walk with the Most High was lost, washed over me. This situation did not call for Caleb, warrior of Yah. This situation called for Caleb the goon, because there was no way this was ending without bloodshed. And to keep my family safe, I will wipe all them niggas off the face of the earth. Man, look, Dominique ain't stupid. He don't want to go to war with me. But I ain't taking no chances with my wife or my child's life. I want somebody watching that boarding house at all times. If anything looks suspicious, I mean anything, I want to know about it instantly. Put somebody on Monica. If she not with me, they'd have her in her sight. Send some more men over to the restaurant. Just tell my mother I hired them as security because they needed work. He stood. You know, eventually, this will lead to... I lifted my hand, cut him off. War? Yeah, I know. But picture me in my crib hiding from a nigga. Whoever think they britches big enough to go to war with me can bring it. As a matter of fact, I ain't sitting waiting for a nigga. A knock on the door interrupted me. Come in, I called, expecting Rashid. I sent up one last prayer, because I was getting ready to crush this fool. At this point, my anger was almost blinding. However, the building pressure oozed out of my head when Monica walked in wearing some kind of bedazzled costume. The impact of her beauty and my anger being brought to a screeching halt rendered me speechless for a moment. Wow, you look amazing, Miss Monica, Teeny muttered as he turned to look at her. And yeah, I didn't like the way he was looking at her. My anger began to silently simmer again. I was going to kill my friend. She flashed him with her beautiful smile. Now, Teeny, what did I tell you about all that Miss stuff? Just Monica. She shook her finger at him, admonishing him as if she was a school teacher and he his student. I sat and I silently watched as the 300 plus pounds of muscle that was Teeny actually blushed under her admonishment. She patted his arm. It's all right, Teeny. I'll charge it to your head and not your heart, she cooed up at him. Why, thank you, Monica. I sure do appreciate it. This woman had turned my killer into soft butter. Hey, Teeny, go ahead and take care of what we discussed. I'll catch up with you later. He nodded before turning to look back at Monica. You have a good day, Monica. He went to tip his hat, except he didn't have one on, so he just rubbed his bald head, playing it off. She flashed him one of those smiles that rendered most men useless, further wrapping him around her little finger. See you later, Teeny. He walked toward the door, but turned to look at me over her shoulder, giving me the thumbs up with a goofy grin on his face. I did not return his smile. In fact, I felt my mood slipping into very dangerous territory. Seeing this, the smile left his face. He paused and shut the door. You okay, boss? He asked. I'll talk to you later, Teeny. Be ready. He nodded before closing the door. My eyes came back to my wife, who had managed to bring the hopeless romantic out of a goon. I couldn't blame Teeny, though. Had she done the same to me? Didn't she have me living in a damn boarding house just to be close to her? She was beautiful. Amazingly so. Any man with eyes could see that. Poor Teeny didn't know what hit him. She had walked through my door dressed like one of the royal Hebrew queens of old. I sat back in my chair. That smile of yours will be the death to some unfortunate fool, wife. My smile disappeared as I took him in. His quiet threat resonated in the room. He was angry. Very. What's the matter with you? I asked. He threw up his hands. Just one of them days, I guess. Okay. He was throwing me mixed signals. But I didn't think he was angry with me. I smiled, even more excited to reveal my surprise. Well, I have good news. I've come to fulfill my half of the bargain. He frowned. What bargain? I placed the sign facing away from him on the couch and put my bag with my changing clothes in it on the floor. And then I slowly began to unravel the shawl. Remember you said that day that you will make me beg? And I laughed and I said, if you did, I would dress up like a chicken and stand outside your shop holding up a sign. As I took off the shawl, his eyes slowly raked over my body. Grinning, I picked the sign up to show him. As he read it, his frown grew. Okay, not the response I expected. I lowered the sign, placing it back on the couch. When I looked back up, he was wearing that deadly grin. The same one he wore before he hit that guy with those 2 big wrenches. The same one he'd worn before his men snatched up my girls out the car. And I ain't gonna lie, it was making me very uncomfortable. Slowly he stood, never taking his eyes off me. This was not my Caleb. This was mob boss Caleb I was talking to. Something had made him slip back into his former self. Oh yeah? You gonna stand outside my shop, just like that? His question sounded calm, but he always sounded like that before he did something completely wild. He chuckled without humor as he slowly walked around his desk. "What, Monica?" he asked, holding up his hands as he began to walk towards me. "You think 'cause I read the Bible and I'm trying to be a better man that I won't kill a nigga?" He balled his fist up and slammed him into his open palm. I nearly jumped out of my heels. I held up my hand, speaking calmly to him. I don't know what pissed him off like this, but he was trying to take it out on me. "Caleb, it was just a joke. You wasn't supposed to get upset." "Oh, really? You tell me how I'm supposed to feel when my wife's beauty attracts every nigga within the 20 city blocks." I began to slowly step back. Something was wrong with him, and it didn't have anything to do with my outfit, but the way he was walking towards me was a little threatening. "Caleb, what happened? Why are you so upset?" I asked my question softly, pleading with my eyes for him to talk to me. His gaze slowly raked over my body again, and I saw when his lust started to go to war with his anger, because he did that thing with his bottom lip. And I think that there may be something wrong with me because I was extremely turned on by it. My back came up against the door, and he continued to walk toward me until he was standing in front of me. I put my hand on the doorknob. This position caused my body to thrust out a bit, as if I was offering myself to him. He put his hand on the door by my head as he gazed down into my eyes, and I saw it then. The battle that was going on within him. Something bad had happened. I reached up and gently palmed his cheek. "What happened, baby?" I whispered. And for a moment he closed his eyes as he took in my comfort. When he opened them, the anger was completely gone, replaced by his lust. He slammed his lips against mine. At first I was taken aback by the fierceness of his kiss, but then he gently, just a bit, and it was all it took for my mouth to soften for him. He moaned when he felt my surrender. "Thank you, baby. I need you so bad," he whispered. He put one arm around my waist and lifted me against the door. I wrapped my arms around his neck and my legs around his waist and held on for dear life as he deepened the kiss. His hard body rubbed up against my softness that was still sensitive from the last time he made love to me, and it was enough to cause that fire to build as if it had never been extinguished. I reached up and I snatched the crown off my head, causing red feathers to rain down around me. He turned with me in his arms, causing me to laugh out at the sudden movement as he carried me to his desk. He swept his arm across it, clearing the space for my body. The way he looked down at me made me feel like the most desirable woman in all the world. He reached up and snatched his t-shirt from over his head before he ripped my skirt from around my waist, causing more feathers to take to the air. I think I will never forget that day. My husband made love to my body so thoroughly in the midst of those feathers. Needless to say, Madam had been right, and Operation Sexy Chicken had been a smashing success.